Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to our daily morning Srīmad Bhāgavatam discussion. We'll start with Mangalacharan. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Sabhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, and today we're going to discuss verses 26 to 29. Verse 26. Prabhuji, do you want to scroll up a bit? Nabhaso tha vikurvanad abhut sparsha guno nilaha paran vayach Shabdavamscha prana oja saho balam vayorapi vikurvanat kala karma swabhavataha upadyata tejo vai rupavat sparsha shabdavat tejasastu vikurvanat asid ambhorasatmakam rupavat sparshavach chambho koshavach cha prana paranvayad visheshastu vikurvanad ambhaso gandhavan abhut paranvayad rasa sparsha shabda rupa gunanvitaha. Word translation? Nabasha, of the sky, Ataha, thus, Vikurvanat, being transformed, Abhut, generated, Sparsha, touch, Gunaha, quality, Anila, air, Para, previous, Anvayat, by succession, Shabdavan, full of sound, Cha, also, Pranaha, life, Ojaha, sense perception, Sahaha, fat, Balam, strength, Vayuhu, of the air, Api, also, Vikurvanat, by transformation, Kala, time, Karma, reaction of the past, Swabhavataha, on the basis of nature, Utpadyata, generated, Teja, fire, by, duly, Rupavat, the form, Sparsha, touch, Shabdavat, with sound also, Tejasa, of the fire, Tu, but, Kurvanat, of being transformed, Asit, it is so happened, Ambaha, water, Rasa Atmakam, composed of juice, Rupavat, with form, Sparshavat, with touch, Cha, and Ambaha, water, Ghoshavat, with sound, Cha, and Para, previous, Anvayat, by succession, Visheshaha, variegatedness, Tu, but, Vikurvanat, by transformation, Amvasaha, of water, Gandhavan, odorous, Abhut, became, Para, previous, Anvayat, by succession, Rasa, juice, Sparsha, touch, Shabda, sound, Rupa Guna Anvitaha, qualitative. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch, And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life, sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time and nature's course, fire is generated, taking a shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juice and taste. As previously, it is also the form of touch. It also has form of touch and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous and, as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. Would anyone would like to read the purport, please?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can I read this?
Yes, please, Mataji. Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth, as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. Taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another, but the original cause is the Lord Himself in plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lying in the causal water of the Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the call of all causes, and this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10.8 as follows. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky, there is sound only, whereas in the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of odor also. Therefore, on the earth, there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to the dearrangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from special dearrangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The bhakti yogi, however, surpasses all the yogi because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Balaji. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. So today's verse is a very technical but very, very interesting description about the creation. And we are reading, it's a scriptural subject matter, but we can sometimes think, I thought this would be easy. Spiritual subject matter means um, understanding about Lord, his pastimes with devotees. So why I have to go so much technical in understanding about the creation? Why I'm reading all this? We can have this question sometimes in our mind. Why can't we just jump to the 10th canto and just relish the beautiful pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, which is the essence? Why should we figure out how the sound moves, how the air moves, how the taste is generated? Why we can't just go to the 10th canto and just read these confidential pastimes of Krishna and the gopis? So to answer this, Prabhupada said, for us to understand the 10th canto properly, we have to first understand the other 9 cantos. We can't understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is performing his intimate Leela with the residents of Vrindavan unless we have a working understanding about the knowledge of Bhagavatam, unless we have the knowledge of the basic principles of creation on how that same Lord is the source of all creation, Aham Sarvasya Prabhu. Otherwise, we don't understand the position of the Supreme Lord, His supreme majesty, His supreme power, His supreme will. And if we just go straight to the 10th canto and just read his pastimes with his confidential devotees, there is a very good chance we might think, oh, these activities of Supreme Lord in Vrindavan are not that different from my activities in this material mundane material world, in these mundane relationships. So we can just think, oh, they're not special. What's happening? It's just, two friends are doing some pastimes. Oh, I do the same with my friend. So, because unless we understand the greatness of the Lord, it is impossible to understand his sweetness. So, there is a term for this. It's called, mistaking gold for iron. So, iron, if someone touches gold and iron, without understanding the knowledge of metals, they can see, oh, they just feel like some metal. But pretty much they are the same. I'll just use them for the same thing. But unless someone has a knowledge of metallurgy, just like a jeweler, he cannot understand the value of gold. So first one needs to have that knowledge, and then they can differentiate between iron and gold. Similarly, unless we have knowledge of the first 9 cantos, we cannot understand the sweet pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We study these things to understand how Krishna is, and we after we study this, we get a little understanding of his greatness and also how the material energy works. Because if we don't know how the material energy works, we cannot get out of it as well. And not only we cannot get out of it, we cannot even help our family or other people in this human race out of it as well. We can say, oh, that's easy. I'll just do devotional service and I can quickly get out of this material nature. I can just bypass this whole material creation. As also mentioned in the purport, that's true. That's absolutely true. We can do that. Devotional service is very powerful. We can do that. But however, unless we don't know the complexity and strength of the material nature, we will never understand how difficult it is to get out material nature is. And unless we don't have the faith that this material nature is very strong, I cannot conquer it just by myself using my endeavor. Unless I do this, I will never surrender fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. I will not have full faith in the process of Krishna consciousness or devotional service. So that's why understanding this complexity of material nature is very important, so that we are always fearful of this material nature and making sure that we choose devotional service at every step of our life. This is part of Sambandha Gyan. Understanding who the Lord is, understanding who we are, understanding what the material nature is, and the relationship between the two. How one has to deal with the Lord and how one has to deal with the material nature. So that's why there is so much detail provided to understand not only the material nature, but also how the Lord is intricately connected with all aspects of material nature. So we understand, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's a sweet little cowherd boy in Vrindavan, that same Lord is also manifesting this giant, humongous Mahavishnu form in order to facilitate this creation of material energy. Such detail is mentioned in Srīmad Bhāgavatam, and such understanding, it just baffles the minds of scientists, of great scientists, because these material scientists are trying to understand how the creation works, using different speculative and empirical methods, using devices such as telescope and microscope, using theories, using hypotheses, using various aspects of mental and intellectual methods to understand the creation. But in reality, they never even come close to understanding how the things are actually happening, how the creation is happening, how the creation is being maintained, and how the creation is being annihilated. They're all just speculations. And the funny part is they change their speculation every 10 or 20 years. Oh, the paper we published 20 years old, that theory is wrong. We found another theory which supersedes that theory. And then has been happening since the last 800 or 1,000 years. So these descriptions are showing how the material energy is controlling us. The living entity is called Tatashta Shakti. So Tatashta means on the tat. Tat means shore. That means we can be either in the water or on the land. But actually right now we are on the tat. That's our nature. So the living entity, because of this nature, they are called the marginal potency. And that's why they have to be either under the influence of the spiritual energy, or they have to be under the influence of the material energy. They cannot stay in the tat for long. They have to take shelter of one of them. That is why we are called marginal energy. And when we are under the control of the material energy, we are always baffled. But when we are under the control of the spiritual energy, we are cognizant, we are conscious, we are Krishna conscious. So if we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand how the creation of material energy and how the creation is working, and how everything is working so well. Everything is running according to a certain pattern. And if we see a pattern, if we see intelligence, the normal next intelligent thought that comes is, if there is a plan, there is a plan maker. That's why everything is running according to a plan. It is absolutely impossible, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, to conclude what the material scientists conclude is that everything is just working automatically as a matter of chance. What does material science teaches us? There is a big bomb blast, a big bang that happens, and all this intelligent creation comes out of it. When is the last time when we see such a chaotic thing like a bomb blast take place and something fruitful come out of it? I have not seen that. But we understand that if there is something happening in a very organized manner, there is intelligence behind it. There is intelligence running all this. So there must be an intelligence who has created it. And what's interesting is, there is definitely intelligence behind it, but Lord is not in touch with it. So we see the hand of Lord, but Lord is not directly in touch with it. Why? Because he manages all these various aspects of creations through his unlimitedly potent energies. And all these energies are perfectly working in connection with Krishna, and everything is working according to his desire or will. So we see the hand of Lord in all this intelligent creation. So today's verse and yesterday's verse also, these are the verses that are showing how further the creation is happening on the material nature. So first, from false ego, the sky is created. And sky or ether is one of the Pancha Mahabhuta, or the 5 gross material elements. So we also say our body is made of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. So what this is telling, yes, that's true, because even the whole material creation, is made of these 5 elements. And the first element that's created is the sky. And sky also sky and sound are the first elements, because sound is the subtle form of the sky element. Sky is the gross form, and the sound is the sky or ether is the gross form, and the sound is the subtle form. So then this ether or sky is transformed into the next gross element, which is called air. And along with air, its subtle elements is also coming, which is touch. But then air also includes the preceding element's subtle form, which is sound. So the air consists of both touch and sound. So sound can travel in air, and then also air helps us to experience touch. Then air further transforms to the next gross element, which is fire. And with fire comes a new subtle element, which is form or shape. So with the fire, we can perceive forms of different objects, shapes of different objects, but it also has the preceding gross elements, subtle forms as well, including touch and sound as well. Then fire further transforms into water, and water consists of the subtle forms of taste, form, touch, and sound. And eventually, water transforms into earth, which has the subtle form of smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. That's why the purport mentions this earth is, on this earth, there is full display of variegatedness of life, because it consists of all the 5 preceding elements subtle form as well. So when we say, we have heard this, we are born from dust and we go into dust when we die. So what does that mean? So when we die, either we are burned or we are buried. And if we are burned, our body decomposes to ashes, converts into ashes straight away. Or if we are buried, it decomposes to ashes eventually. And that means the body is made of these 5 elements and the subtle elements. And then when it disintegrates, the subtle elements go back to this material nature. It all disintegrates, goes back. So that's what our composition is. And that's also the material nature's composition is. It's not that we are very, very different. We are part of this material nature. Our bodies are part of this material creation. And hence, the ingredients of the creation is the same. So then there is so much effort is given on sound. It is the first and the foremost elements of creation. It is the gross form of, it is the subtle form of this gross material element of sky or ether. Sound is the first thing that's created. So what we learn from this, that sound is the basic principle of creation. Everything comes from sound. That's what we learn from this. Because this material creation is created from sound, everything comes from sound. And right now we are discussing about the creation aspect. But what to say about the destruction aspect? Everything is also destroyed through sound. Just like when what does Lord Shiva does when it is his turn to destroy the creation? He plays this drum called damru in his hand, and then it is like a dance of pralaya or devastation. And that dance that Lord Shiva does is like a form of a kirtan in which there is sound and there is chanting and there is dancing. So sound is also the reason for destruction as well. So sound creates and destroys, but there is also another aspect of sound. It also transforms. So sound, spiritual sound destroys material creation and generates spiritual creation. I'll repeat, spiritual sound destroys material creation and generates spiritual creation. In other words, through spiritual sound energy, the material energy or material consciousness is destroyed. So when sound is performed as a kirtan, this includes also hearing from Srīmad Bhāgavatam, hearing Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, all these spiritual subject matters. So when kirtan is performed, what happens? All of a sudden, it cuts through the material consciousness and connects us straight to the spiritual energy. And the interesting thing is, when this is happening, we are completely oblivious to this. We are not aware of this, that this is happening, that it is also cutting through our material consciousness. So every time we are chanting spiritual sound, it is cutting through our material consciousness and it is taking us closer to Krishna or spiritual consciousness through Shabda Brahma, which is spiritual sound vibration. And it not only transforms our material consciousness, but it also transforms the material energy and the material environment around us. So we see, when we go to the temples, we feel this certain vibration around us. Like everyone's feeling very peaceful, everyone's feeling very, very calm and composed, and it's very easy to practice devotional service. Similarly, if devotees do harinam at a certain place, and they go from there, if you come after a few hours at that place, there is some spiritual vibration there. Because this sound not only transforms our consciousness at that time, it actually transforms the material energy in the environment around that place also. And what happens is, the more our environment is purified, it further gets easier to chant Krishna's pure names or to utter spiritual sound, which further helps. So, this chanting of holy names of the Lord actually purifies the consciousness and awakens our relationship with the Supreme Lord. It purifies our consciousness and awakens our relationship with the Lord. So, we read today that sound leads to touch, and touch leads to form. Sound, which is the subtle form of sky, leads to the subtle form of air, which is touch, which leads to the subtle form of fire, which is form or shape. So what we understand from this, that sound has to proceed before we can see form. So first we have to hear something and then we can see the form. So similarly, spiritual sounds also leads us to see the Lord's form. So some people say, oh, whenever I close my eyes, I can see the Lord. But somehow or the other, I'm not able to chant his names. This is absolutely impossible as per the principles of material creations and as mentioned in Srīmad Bhāgavatam, and it's also impossible as per spiritual creations, because this material creation is just a perverted reflection of the spiritual creation. So sound or chanting of holy name has to come first. Then eventually we see the Lord. So chanting of Lord's name, the sound of Lord's name leads us to seeing his form, his beautiful form. And that seeing his form leads us to understanding his qualities. And understanding his qualities leads us to understanding his pastimes. So the names or the sound of the names has to proceed first before we are able to see the Lord. Because if we are seeing something without chanting the names, that could be a mental concoction as well. So to bring Krishna into our consciousness, in this transcendental form, it can be possible only through spiritual sound, such as chanting the Mahamantra. And towards the end of the purport, Prabhupada also mentions on how disease of the body takes place due to the arrangement of air within this earthly body of the living beings, and how by yogic process especially are very, very beneficial to keep this airs in the body in order, so that the disease of the body becomes almost nil by such exercises. So for devotees, following yogic process to realize the Lord is not recommended. Ashtanga yoga is not recommended for this age in Kali Yuga. It was recommended for the Satya Yuga, but not for Kali Yuga to realize the Lord. However, that doesn't mean that these activities don't give any benefit. The yogic exercise do help in keeping our body and mind healthy. And healthy body and mind is a prerequisite. It's very, very important to practice Krishna consciousness. This is something we need to engrave in our mind, that only if I'm healthy, then only I can practice Krishna consciousness. Without health, we cannot achieve anything spiritual or material. Because we said, okay, we have attained this very, very rare human birth. But if someone has a human birth, but he's like full of diseases when he is born, will he be able to realize his purpose of life? Will he be able to associate with devotees, understand the spiritual subject matters, go to temples? No. So that person who's born diseased is not different from a tree in one sense. So what we understand is, to fully recognize the purpose of human life, first we have to be healthy. Even to do something material, we need health, but even for spiritual, we need health. To go to temple, we need health. To chant, we need help. To make prasad, to offer bhoga to Lord, we need health. So to do anything, to do devotional service, we need health. Health is of paramount importance. And this clearly shows, Srila Prabhupada actually once had a sign in a kitchen, devotees used to mention, And he had that sign which had the priority, which clearly showed practical priorities for devotees. He said, health is number one, chanting is number two, service is number three, and then comes reading. And it was handwritten by Srila Prabhupada. So this clearly shows the priorities in practical application of devotional service on a day-to-day basis. So all devotees who are in this process, as per Srila Prabhupada, health is the first and foremost. So devotees need to look after what they are eating, how they are exercising and keeping their body healthy, how they are feeling mentally, and work towards keeping the body and mind healthy. Yes, we'll not be able to get it healthy all the time, but if we see something is not in balance, we should try to work towards it. And balance is not static, that, oh, I'll always be in this amazing place where my body is healthy, my mind is healthy, and I'm doing amazing amount of devotional services. Always, my Guru Maharaj used to mention that we are juggling few balls. But one of the balls we are juggling is the ball of our own body and mind. So that has to be looked after along with our devotional service as well, because it's a prerequisite to devotional service. And Prabhupada used to mention that there are three main reasons for diseases. First is cleanliness, which is external cleanliness of body. So we can manage that by making sure our environment is always clean, our temple is always clean, our home is always clean, our body is always clean. But one should take bath regularly, one should be washing hands regularly, one should be wearing clean clothes. So that cleans the external aspect of the body. And for the internal aspect of the body, it's the mind and the consciousness. So consciousness flows through the mind. So if someone's the way someone's mind is relating to the other entities, it tells us about their consciousness. If someone's acting really peaceful in Krishna, and they are able to practice devotional service, they have a good control of the senses. We see, oh, their mind is controlled, their mind is Krishna conscious. But if they are not able to control their senses, we know, oh, this mind may be in more material consciousness. So we have to clean this mind all the time. We have to keep this mind clean. And why this mind is dirty? Because of the 6 defects of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion, the 6 anarthas. And we have to clean this. So we have to clean ourselves of this 6 anarthas and our consciousness, which is thinking that I am this person, I'm that person. Our consciousness has different identities, different false perceptions, which is called false ego. And we have to clean these anarthas and this false ego. And how we can do this? By chanting the holy names. Chaito darpanam marjanam. So cleaning this dust of material consciousness on our heart by chanting the holy names. So sound can also help us clean as well. So first reasons for diseases are cleanliness, external or internal. The next thing is diet. The devotees need to watch what they are eating. We cannot eat too much that we feel always heavy and we feel lethargic, and then we cannot eat items which are which cannot be offered to the Lord, which are like meat, pungent foods and spicy foods, because they take us to the mode of passion and ignorance. And in the mode of passion and ignorance, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to practice Krishna consciousness. So devotees need to look after their diet. Even when we are eating prasadam, everyone has a different body, everyone has different composition of the 5 elements. So based on that, we need to just see what's working for us, that making us healthy for spiritual service, and just eat according to that. And the third reason for diseases is anxiety. So people have a lot of mental stress. So if we have stress for material things, it's material anxiety, which is bad for us, and we should try to get relief from us. And again, chanting can help with that. It can make us be peaceful. It can make us understand our true identity and not worry about different things I want because of my false identities. If you understand my true identity, being a servant of Krishna, I don't need to be anxious about getting all these material objects or getting all these material appreciation or material identities. I don't need to worry about that. I know my identity as being servant of the Supreme Lord, and I'm happy in that. Then my material anxiety can be removed, and that this awakeness, how can we awaken this spiritual identity within? Again, by chanting the holy names. But on the other hand, if you have spiritual anxiety, oh, how can I improve in devotional service? How can I improve my purity? How can I improve my service? How can I help other devotees? How can I spread this message of Krishna consciousness? That's spiritual anxiety. That's good for us. That's lolium. That anxiety is good anxiety. And the more we have that anxiety, all the other anxieties will automatically settle down, because then Krishna takes charge. Krishna says, oh, he's really wanting to love me. He's really wanting to serve me. He really wants to serve my devotees. Now I personally take interest in life and make sure all the other things are managed. So sorry, I've gone past our agreed time. So I'll stop here and ask the devotees if they have any questions or comments on today's discussion. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to ask, is it possible for like this sound to be translated through like phones and everything? Because it's obviously special when you're in person, when you're doing like kirtan, right? So what is the difference that doesn't come through when you're on a phone or you're on a, like when we listen to the Prabhupada's tapes and like what's it called? Not VAPI, in-person association, and also
Vapus,
listening.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And Vani, yes.
How does that change?
Yes, impersonal association. So in-person association definitely is better. In my understanding, Vani is transcendental. So even if we hear Srila Prabhupada lectures now, sometimes they just give us goosebumps. They completely awaken us out of our ignorance sometimes. So the Shabd is always powerful in the Vani. But then it is also depends on the seer, what's the purity of the person who's listening. Some people can listen to, like say someone's doing, his studies and they listen 10 lectures and they don't get a single thing. But one person who just learned one lecture and he can completely understand everything. So it also depends on the consciousness of the listener as well, on how he can grab the knowledge out of the sound. However, yes, the face-to-face interaction will always be better. And in my view, why is that is because when you are hearing sound, you are just exposed to the element of sound. But when you are when you're hearing transcendental subject matter, but when you are hearing the transcendental subject matter from a person, you're not only hearing through the sound, you're also seeing the person's form. You're also seeing the other aspects of the person. So this way, you can grab the more data out of that person's presentation in terms of sound and expression and everything, and make a more holistic understanding of that subject matter. So, yes, we are getting benefit by hearing Srila Prabhupada words now, but yes, devotees got a lot of benefits when they heard Srila Prabhupada in person. And the same applies to material knowledge as well. So if you hear about certain material thing, and just by sound, you may not be attracted to this. But if you see a certain material happening from your eyes, so for example, of Ajamil, when he saw, something that actually deviated him from his path of a Brahmanical culture, the path of devotional service, when he saw something, it had a much more profound impact on him than just hearing. So the more you expose your senses to information, the more impact the information has on you. That's why we need to control our senses. That's why we need to restrict our senses to material subject matters, but expose more and more our senses to spiritual subject matters. So yes, we need to hear transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, hear the chanting of the holy names. From our eyes, we need to see devotees giving presentation. We need to see the forms of the Lord. We need to see the deities. Can we hear the forms of the deities? Yes, we can hear the description, and it's also beautiful. But what if, along with hearing, we can see it in person as well? Eventually, isn't that our goal? To hear, eventually, to see Lord's form. We are doing the chanting of the holy name through Nama, and then what we want to see is his form, Rupa. So, Prabhu, I'm not sure if that has helped you, but let me know if you need
That was very
if that
nice,
was
Prabhuji.
sufficient.
That was very nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments?
No, thank you so much, Prabhu. It was a beautiful class. You explained this very nicely. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks for the nice explanations. Just a few comments. You mentioned about the sound and the importance of sound. The material sound, destroys, and spiritual sound creates and enlivens. And there was a Japanese experiment done on this, where the plants were put in a controlled environment, and all the nourishment ingredients were given, but to one plant in controlled environment, the person would go there and every day speak harsh words, swear at the plant, basically verbally abuse the plant. And even though the plant got all the ingredients, the plant dwindled and eventually died. And on the other hand, there was a plant which was given the nice sound vibration of Hare Krishna mantra, and the ingredients or the nourishment given was not as good as the plant, the other plant which was abused, but still, just by sound, the plant and loving dealings, the plant nourished and nicely became, grown. So this sound is so important. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Shabda ke paurusham nishu, that I'm the sound in the ether. But it is up to us how we use that sound. So it is very careful. So we have to be very careful when we speak, that our words are spiritual and they're not abusive. We don't talk nonsense, and we conserve our words. And when we do that, then the words will have the potency to be true. And not only that, these words have the potency to uplift us. And I also like the point you made about the engagement of senses. It is very important, to realize that these senses are created by Krishna and therefore need to be used for Krishna. For example, while eating prasadam, when we, hear material music or see the television or anything of that sort, then we are not actually honoring the prasadam. We are dishonoring. It is like when Krishna is present there in form of his mercy, we would pay full attention to Krishna. So similarly, prasadam, we have to look with our eyes, and just by looking at the prasadam, the digestive system prepares itself. And digestive system, we know, is Krishna himself. Krishna says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva. And by touching the prasadam with our hands, also we are purifying ourselves. And of course, by tasting it, the purification further happens. So in this way, our eating habits, our sleeping habits, our habits of each activities of the senses, somehow or the other, if we are very careful about it and do it as per the Vedas, then we'll see that how this creation of Krishna will uplift us. And that's why this knowledge of creation is so important. And I must really thank you. You explained it so nicely, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing this further context. That was really valuable. Thank you. Any other last thoughts or comments? Grantraj srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Have a wonderful Krishna Consciousness Day, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That was a
Hare
beautiful
Krishna.
class. Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Prabhu.
Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhu.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
It
Prabhu.
was
Jai
beautiful
Prabhu.
class.
Hare Krishna.